And we are live. G'day everyone, Mike Jibber here, and you are listening to My Creative Journey, Season 2, Episode number 4. This week, I am joined by Australia's leading wedding photographer, or at least that's what his website says anyway. That is right, I am joined this week by my personal friend and Aussie larrikin, Josh Huggett. If you don't know Josh, he is an incredible wedding photographer and videographer based out of Adelaide, South Australia. Like myself, he is a photography educator and a little bit of a business mogul. Josh and his team are shooting 75 plus weddings a year, and you don't get to that level by chance. He is clearly doing something right on the back end, and I'm so excited to have him on the podcast here today to talk all about his business and his creative journey thus far. For context, Josh and I met when he actually reached out to me on TikTok of all places earlier in the year. He wanted to see if I would host a photography workshop alongside him. Now, I had no idea who Josh was, but going off his social media content, and if you've seen any of it yourself, you'll know that me and him are polar opposites in that space. Josh is a very outgoing guy, and I am quite introverted and reserved. So I didn't know how it would go, and I took a few months to get back to him, but I eventually did, and we lined up a workshop, and the rest is history. Josh and I got along so well, and I just loved how honest and genuine he is. His passion for business and creativity is super infectious, and the guy just loves a chat. So you'll hear that in today's episode, that Josh will literally answer any question that I throw at him, and he just wants to help people succeed. And I love being able to talk with people and bring, awareness around that, because I think that there are so many people out there holding on to stuff, whereas Josh is just giving it all away. And I love that he is so passionate about helping others. We talk about all types of things in today's episode, from how Josh started his photography career all the way back to what he was doing before he even started in photography. We speak about how he makes his clients feel comfortable in front of the camera and what drives him to keep turning up and shooting weddings week in, week out, multiple times a week. He is an absolute madman when it comes to wedding photography. He's also taking a big leap into photography educational content, and we talk all about what he has on the horizon in terms of that and what he's doing moving forward, whether it be workshops or online courses in his community and types of things that he's building and helping other photographers grow as well. So without further ado, let's get the man on and give a big warm welcome to Josh Huggett. Hey Mike. Well, g'day Josh. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast today, mate. It's been, a little while in the making, but also, I was a bit hesitant to have you on the podcast. I know that we've spoken about before how we first got to meet. I wanted to sort of take the people back to when we first met, just to give people a bit of context around how we met. But we recently did a workshop together, and I was a bit apprehensive, as I'm sure you were as well, whether we would work well together. How did you think the whole thing went, and what's your whole take on that situation? Because I know that you recently had a few things to say about me that you didn't think we were going to work together.
I didn't at all. But first of all, how we originally met that nobody knows is that I sent you a DM on TikTok and you left me on red. Completely.
Oh, wow.
Completely. And then I got more followers than you on TikTok, and then all of a sudden, now we're replying.
Oh.
And now here we are.
Oh.
But that's okay.
Okay.
I'm okay with being left on red. I'm already married, so I don't need you to reply to everything that I send you, Michael.
You don't need my emotional support.
But I was apprehensive about us meeting in person, because watching your videos and watching my videos, and even looking at our backdrops in these two videos, we are two very, very different people from two very different, not walks of life as much, but the way that we conduct ourselves and run our businesses are two very, very different things. And I was nervous that we would get together and we'd kind of like knock heads a bit. If I thought you would be this super introverted, like drawing conversation from a rock person, and you're not. You're actually quite delightful, which is nice.
Stop it.
And I don't know. I come across as kind of scary, I think.
It's hard, right? Like, I feel like when you portray a particular type of person online, it's hard when you first go to like meet people in person. And I know I've had that experience a lot with like interacting with so many people on Instagram and on TikTok, and like when you first come to meet them in real life, you're like, wow, you are not like that at all. And it just proves to you that Instagram is so curated, but it's also like you have to be that, and I know that we were talking about that, you have to be that type of person when you turn up to do your work. Like in your content, most of the time you're just at work. So it's a different personality to who you are in like a real life. And I'm exactly the same as well. Just because I overscript the things that I do online doesn't mean that, I'm like that in real life. And doesn't mean that we can't still connect just because we don't have that same style.
This is where I think more people need to spend more time doing this as well, is Instagram stories. So the things that we put out on our Instagram feed is one thing. Like I'm this loud, kind of obnoxious wedding photographer that will do anything to advocate for his clients, and I'll yell at people and I'll make sure that my couples are feeling comfortable and all of that sort of stuff on my feed. But then in my stories is actually just me. That's where I just talk and I'm able to be myself. That's where you can like build that relationship with your followers and even clients as well, where they can see a little bit kind of like behind the curtain. And you do similar stuff as well, where you kind of come on and do your little talks, and outside of the hey mics, you get that little bit of a behind the curtain, and that's where we were like, I don't know, we became friends behind the curtain, didn't we, Michael?
Behind the curtain, yeah.
I'm going to try to not call you Michael all podcast, but in my head, that is
Michael.
what you are known as.
I'm just known as Michael.
Yeah, just as Michael. And I'm also going to try not to swear, and I'm going to try not to cough because I'm sick.
No, you could swear. That's okay. I feel like when, like our two different styles, like it's interesting because I've been having this conversation with a lot of different people about how you can very much have your own style and you can like go into that 100%, but you can still make that actually work. And I think that's one of the most interesting things that I've come to learn from you is your style is completely opposite to me, but in no way has it been unsuccessful just because it's not the same way that I do things. And I think in a way that is probably what has made it successful, in the fact that it's so different to what other people do. What was the original reason behind you uploading content in the way that you do? Because I know that this is, an interesting thing for people to think about in why you would start posting content. For you, you went down the route of posting behind the scenes content, of you actually working. Why was it that you thought that was the type that you had to put out there?
So for those of you that don't know who I am and what I do, I'm a wedding photographer in Adelaide, and I post lots and lots and lots of content of me working behind the scenes. And we work in a kind of like... Oh, you already gave him a little glow up on how good I am, didn't you?
Oh, mate, I'll give you a glow up.
But
he's Australia's best wedding photographer.
Yeah, Australia's best wedding photographer. Self-titled, because I don't enter any
of his website. Have a look at that.
Yeah, I don't enter any of the rigged award systems. So I've never won an award, but that's okay.
You're here to that.
What was the question? So I started posting mainly to deter people from inquiring with me. So everything I do in my business and everything that I kind of put out into the ethos and the way that I built my website and the way that I run my Facebook ads and the way that I interact with via email, and everything that I do is to stop people booking with me, so that only the people that make it through all of my like internal filters are my ideal clients, and I never really have a bad wedding day ever. It's only when they don't go through the whole booking process that we kind of get people that maybe don't mesh as well. But so we started putting out content to deter people from inquiring, so that, if you're scrolling Instagram and you see a video of the wedding photographer telling the bridal party to get fucked, you're probably not gonna, if that doesn't mesh with you, you're not going to follow me, you're not going to inquire, you're not going to like it. But if that's something that you're like, oh my God, like yesterday, I had 2 different Zoom calls and both of them said, we need somebody that's going to be able to keep our bridal party in line, because we all like to have fun and we like to muck around and have a really good time. We need to make sure that our family doesn't disappear. We need to make sure that this happens. You're going to be perfect. So it just kind of lent directly into my ideal clients, where I know that bridal party is going to be so much fun and we're going to be able to do crazy and outlandish things, rather than going to some like fucking big white church wedding where everybody's as stiff as a stick and it's boring. I don't want to be there. I don't want to do that.
It's interesting to hear you talk about that, because I feel so many people when they first start is like, I have to get as many clients as I possibly can, and I need to go as wide as I can with my marketing to get as many people through the door. And I don't want to like offend anyone. I don't want to have a lot of personality out there, because people don't really want to know who I am, especially working in our industry, where we're working with actual people. We're not working with organizations. We're working with genuine, like, everyday people. So people are like, they just want like a big sort of company to come in and do the job. But for you, you were like, I'm going to go the other way and try to deter people as much as I can. And through that has come your personality, where there are a select group who have really gravitated to your style. Has that always been the way? Have you always done that? Or was there a stage in the beginning where you were like, no, now I'm starting to get too many inquiries of the types of work that I don't want to do?
So when we first started and when it was just me, and I think everybody should do this regardless of what your personality is, but when I first started, I took every single booking that came my way, because I came from like, I've never second shot for anybody ever. I never went and worked for free for anybody. I never went and learnt from other wedding photographers. I'm more of like it sounds bad, but I'm like, I'll just figure it out kind of guy. And like, I went and shot a wedding for free, and that was fun. And I was like, cool, yep, great. This is what I'm going to do. This is my personality now. So I'm going to be a wedding photographer. So I took on every single job that came my way. And in doing that, not only did I learn what I like in weddings and what weddings I kind of want to be at, I also learned where I don't want to be. And I think it's important that everybody kind of goes through that stage of like, and they have to, because at that point you're still charging like $1,100 a wedding. But in doing that, so I did take on every single wedding. I found some weddings I was like, wow, this wedding's so much fun, I really like to be here. Then I shot some weddings and I was like, oh, this isn't as fun. Why isn't it as fun? And then it was a process of like slowly filtering things out. And I remember one day, because I used to, and this may come as a shock, Michael, but I used to shoot weddings in suit pants and a white button-up shirt, because that's what...
Look how much you've grown.
I know. Got my name on everything now.
Yeah, all black.
But that's what Google Images told me to wear. I was like, what do you wear as a wedding photographer? So I like literally Googled wedding photographer male outfit and looked on there, and I was like, cool, this is what people are wearing. This is how people act. This is what I need to do. And then I remember one day there was like this big kind of like fuck this moment where I was trying to portray this really professional white website with like all the nice brown colorings and, you know, like I bought one of those, you know, those script fucking logos that they advertise to you, like, you know, Joshua Huggett Media Photography. I bought one of those, and then I was like, this sucks. This is the worst thing that I've ever seen. And then so I had this like, fuck this moment. I was like, I changed my logo to like an old school hardcore band logo, where it was like an X, and I just remember that pivot moment. And it's when I went from wearing white shirts to black shirts. I slowly made my website from white to black, and now here we are a few years later.
I feel like so many people, they start a business and then end up doing something that they don't enjoy. And it's like, why go and do something? Why put all this time and effort into doing something outside the norm? Because I think what we do is to definitely still, you know, outside the norm. Why go and do that and create something to then go and do something you hate and work with clients that you hate and have to dress a certain way that you don't like and, you know, have to present as a person who you aren't?
I was listening to a book the other day, and I can't remember what it is, but before we get off the call, I'll try to remember, and you can put it in the show notes. But I was listening to a book, and it's a business book, and he was talking about some people. It's the difference between the CEO, the worker, and something else, or the business owner. And it's how so many people, they're like, I really like, you know, the example he uses is a baker, and she opens up her own, you know, she loves making cakes, and everybody loves her cakes, and they always tell her, oh, you should do this, you know, you love making cakes, blah, 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 blah. And then so she goes and opens her own bakery, and then she slowly becomes miserable and she doesn't like it anymore because now all she's doing is making cakes. And I kind of feel the same way with photography. Like when I first started photography, and lots of people will be in this same, in these shoes, but you start photography, you love taking photos and you love being able to take photos. And then you make a business out of it and you very quickly start to resent it because now that's all you have to do. Like I don't take my camera anywhere with me anymore. I have like everyday cameras that I thought I'd take with me and take photos, but I just don't. I use my phone for all of my photos outside of weddings. My camera bag stays packed. All of my cameras stay in the camera bag. And then I literally put my batteries back in and I take those cameras and shoot a wedding day. But this lady, she started a bakery, and because then she's working in it and she resents it, she's not making any money. She's not doing any of this. She's just really, really unhappy. And she's kind of like pushed into this idea that she needed to start a business when in reality, she would be far happier just being a baker and just making and working for someone else. So there's all these people that think they have to become a photographer or whatever and start their own business when they're probably not business owners. They're not. You have to be cut out to be a business owner. Otherwise, you'll end up in this miserable sort of setting where you're just taking jobs for the sake of taking jobs. You're working weddings that you don't really want to work at. Lewis, my videographer, he's fantastic. He could definitely run his own business, but he knows he has absolutely no interest in the back end. So he just works as a hired gun, and he just goes from job to job, and he works for a bunch of photographers and videographers, and he'll just upload the footage. He gets paid, and he's done. And not many people have that sort of that mindset that like, maybe I shouldn't be a business owner. Maybe I should just be a photographer and actually be happier in the long run.
How did you feel about pricing when you started? Like, how long did you do it?
I still struggle with pricing now. Like, my pricing is still quite cheap for sounds real fuckboy, but like who I am and how many weddings we shoot and what we do, my pricing's still quite cheap. Like there are photographers in Adelaide that don't have the following or notoriety or experience that charge as much, if not more than I do. But there's a whole conversation about pricing that can be had. But when I first started, I didn't really put too much thought into it. I had like a little welcome guide. So I hybrid shot as well. So I did both photo and video at the same time, and I still do that to this day. So my pricing was always a little bit different because I always had like a little highlight film in there, which always gave me that little bit of a one-up on other people. So I was able to charge, like I started at like $1,500 just for photo, but then I'd make them a little video as well. So that I had a little bit of like I was trying to build my portfolio as quick as possible. And that was always my goal, was I started, and as soon as I was like, yep, I'm going to go all in on wedding photography, I'm going to become a wedding photographer, this is where I want to be, this is where I'm having as much fun as possible. My job in that first 2 years was to work as many weddings as physically possible and get my word of mouth and get my portfolio larger than everybody else in the market as quick as physically possible. So I accepted every single job from like a $300 wedding to a $3,000 wedding. And I would go above and beyond for every single wedding. I would market and network my ass off at all of these events so that I could bring as much attention to me and my brand in as short amount of time as possible. I mean, and then it worked because now here we are. But doing it again, I literally wouldn't change a thing, actually. I would do the exact same thing again. Because so most wedding photographers are like 2-3 years in and they're still shooting 3 weddings a year. In my first year, I shot 6 weddings. In my second year, I shot 35 weddings. And then from there, now we're at 120 weddings a year, to the point that we're scaling back down. Purely because in that first year, we worked our ass off. That was every single Facebook group we were commenting in. We were running Facebook ads. We were accepting any single job that came our way, engagement shoots, weddings, whatever, to get that word of mouth out and to build that portfolio because we didn't have one. We didn't have a portfolio. I was an abandoned building photographer. I did a couple of engagement parties. So I used those engagement party photos for Facebook ads, marketing it as a reception for a wedding, like people having fun, until I had more wedding photos that I liked. And then I used those wedding photos for marketing and then just continued building this portfolio as quick as possible. And so in the span of like 9 months, 10 months, we'd built a larger wedding portfolio than most wedding photographers would build in like 3 years. And I'll do the same thing now. But even like, and then with pricing, like you said, I could charge a lot more for my services than I do, but then I would leave my ideal clients. Where I sit, where I want to be, I can only charge so much because then I'm out of that price bracket. I won't be at those weddings anymore. I want to be able to turn up in my Dickies and a t-shirt, tell everybody to get fucked, drink beer and go home. You can't really do that at $25,000, $30,000 a booking, but you can do that in the 7 to 10 range.
It's a hard one because you're getting to a point where it is like supply and demand. Like you obviously can't be at everyone all year, and you're getting to the point where, as you said before, like you had people trying to demand you to be there. Like they're trying to plead you to be their photographer. Yeah, you're like, well, how do I edge people out? But also, I don't want to lose those people because they're like the ideal people who I really do want to work with. And
this is where I'm trying to put a cap on it now, I guess. Like I'm trying to stop at 35 weddings a year. In saying that, I've already booked myself 47 for next year. So it's not working.
Unsuccessful on that cap.
Yeah, it's not working too well. 47 weddings next year and 10 of them are interstate.
Right. Okay.
Which is like leaving Adelaide and just going somewhere else, like the Cook Islands or I think I got one in Vietnam as well. Trying to book one in America. So I'm trying to slow down, but I'm also a yes man at heart, where I still have the same, and it's really hard because I was a wedding photographer through COVID, where like we all woke up one day and all of a sudden you'd lost all of your income. So I still have that mentality of like, well, what if it all goes away tomorrow? Take all the bookings in. What if it disappears? Like you gotta. It's like, I don't know. It's a very hard thing to do when you're in charge of your own business too. And it still stresses me out. Your plan for next year. I'm still losing sleep over your plan for next year.
You're still losing sleep over
I've been literally drinking red wine in bed, talking to my wife about your plan for next year, and I'm stressing out, Michael.
Well, I mean, after it all comes crumbling, I'll ask you, how do I get back?
You can come and second shoot. You got take my Facebook ads course.
Yeah, I'll come second shoot for you. That always has been my only like plan. After it all goes bad, I can head over to Adelaide. Who knows?
Not everybody, only a select few people come to Adelaide. We like Adelaide because it is quiet. Nobody comes here. And we would like it to stay that way, please.
You'd like it?
So
okay.
Go to any other state.
Any other state but Adelaide, man?
Yeah, it's nice here. But no, it's not nice enough for you to visit. Not nice enough for anybody to come here.
Okay, I will never come. How do you feel about the like clientele that you get in Adelaide? Because I feel like it's a interesting market, and obviously us two both being Aussies, like it's a really interesting, like, to hear, as you were saying before. The only thing you hear about when you're first starting a business, especially in photography, a lot of stuff you hear is from overseas, from America, from like Europe. Here in Australia, I think things operate very differently, and that's why you and your style has been, very much able to work here in Australia. It's because it's like that's what people actually want. Like, people aren't concerned with the artsy style. There are those people, absolutely. But there's also a huge market of people who don't really care, and they just want someone to come and take photos and actually have a good time with them.
So what I market entirely to people that don't want to have their photo taken. If you are at any point uncomfortable in front of the camera and you're stressing about the fact that you have to have your wedding photos taken, I'm your guy. I'm going to be there. I'm going to make sure that you have a fun time and you're comfortable through the entire process. In that is a majority of people. So I am already marketing to the majority. Most people are uncomfortable in front of the camera. If you are really comfortable and you go and do model shoots and you do all this sort of stuff, then like, I'm not your guy.
A lot of things that I hear you talk about are like how you're making people feel on the day. Like, you're making people feel very comfortable you're very much happy to have a joke with them, but also like be able to just like to document and create what's actually happening there. Like you're not too overly staging moments and you're not trying to be this big production, but also trying to make people feel comfortable. How did that sort of come about for your style? I'm imagining it's a big part of your own personality anyway.
So it's kind of evolved really over time. It started with like, you know, I try to do some more of like the posy stuff, and we still do all of those posed photos. All of the photos of like, you know, the traditional wedding portraits of like standing, holding arms, everybody standing in a line, boy, girl, just the boys, just the girls. We get all of those portraits because we have to. That's our job. We're wedding photographers. But what we do is in between all of those moments is where there's more of like a show almost, where I'm trying to take them out of the fact that they're having their wedding photos taken by making myself sort of the butt of the joke. And everything that we do and everything that I post online will always be, I'm the butt of the joke and I'm building up other people's weddings. I want your wedding to be perceived and be seen as so much fun and you've had the best day possible, so that you look back on all of your content or you look back on your photos and you're like, yeah, we did have a really, really good time.
I'd really love you to talk about your experience in aged care, because what you were telling me the other week when we met was about how that impacted on what you do now and how you make people feel comfortable. Can you give people a little bit of a insight into that? Because I think that's really, you know, that really is helpful for other people to learn, you know, what it is that you can draw from and how you can create your own style through experiences that you've had before.
Yeah, for sure. So I started working in aged care when I was 16 years of age. And I worked in aged care for 11 years, and I spent 9 of those 11 years in memory support, which is like dementia care, so people that are losing their memory and have got Alzheimer's disease. So a lot of time with people losing their memory and just kind of like at the worst place of life. My job was when you entered a nursing home, so like you'd had a fall at home or something, like you were living in your own house, you were living independently, and then you fell over, you've gone to the hospital, then they're like, you can't go home anymore because you're a risk. They would then drop you into a nursing home and be like, hey, you're essentially, well, you're going to die here. And people were in like the worst place physically possible because they'd just been told that they were never going home again. They're going to come here to die. They would like send me into the room and they're like, go Josh, go find out what games they like to play. So you have to learn very, very quickly how to like bring people on side and be like, hey, it's not that bad here. Yeah, you may die, but we play bingo and that's good. You learn how to like try to make people feel comfortable and that sort of stuff. So we take a lot of that comfortability, comfortable energy. We take a lot of that stuff and we bring it into our wedding days, where we turn up at 11 o'clock in the morning to the boys getting ready, and they also don't want us to be there. They don't want their photo taken. They don't want photos of them getting dressed. So we very, very quickly need to bring them on side and be like, no, we're on your team. Just like in aged care when we're like, hey, no, yeah, you're in a shitty situation, but our job is to make you feel as comfortable as possible and we're going to have a really, really good time. We do the same thing with the boys getting ready. Like, yeah, this is a really uncomfortable situation. We're going to take photos of you getting dressed. You probably don't want us here, but let's make it as fun as possible. Same thing with aged care. Then that follows on into the girls getting ready, where I spend all my time in like my memory supports when we deliver photos, but it's all storytelling with the girls getting ready. So the boys were only there for 45 minutes to an hour. So it's like ripping off a Band-Aid. We get the photos, we do our detail photos, we get the photos of them getting dressed, and then we get out of there. We have to make that as fun as possible. Then we head to the girls getting ready, where I use kind of like, you know, you'd spend 8 hours a day with these people in the nursing home. So you build stories and you learn to tell stories with them, because you're with them at their most vulnerable of moments, like showering them in the morning, getting them dressed, changing their, you know, continence aids and all this sort of stuff. So you got to learn to kind of like tell stories and and get people through these somewhat uncomfortable situations. So like we turn up to the girls getting ready and we've got like, like I'm 6'6", I wear all black and I'm covered in tattoos, and I'm coming in with a big camera bag and a big camera. I'm an intimidating thing. Like I'm an intimidating thing to come in the room. So, and especially in aged care where you're like a fucking 90-year-old woman that's 4 foot nothing, and this big burly boy comes in and I'm like, hey love, I'm going to give you a shower, so get undressed. Just like, it's the same thing walking into the girls where you got to like, we walk in and it's, you got to, hey, good morning, how's everybody going, blah, 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 and get them to do the things that you want them to do without coming across as abrasive. So it is a lot of storytelling. It's reaching back to past weddings or things about our dog. And I spoke about it at the workshop, but I use a technique I like to call subject hunting, where I walk into a room, especially because most of the times I've never met these people before. I'm literally walking in cold. I maybe have seen a photo of them online. Maybe we did a Zoom call, but other than that, I've never met these people. And it's called subject hunting, where I'll rattle off heaps of really little stories or heaps of little things very, very quickly based on kind of what I can see in the room, especially if we're at their house. It's way easier at their house than an Airbnb. Rattle off little stories, trying to find that one piece of similarity between us. There's always something. We're human beings. There's always going to be something that we can relate on. So we find that one piece of similarity, and then you kind of like lean onto that. If you walk into the house and they've got dogs, I'm going to talk about my dog. If you walk into the house, they've got kids, I'm going to talk about my kids. Walk into the house, they've got video games, I'm going to talk about video games. Walk into the house and they've got nice cars outside, I'm going to talk about cars. I'm going to find something so that I can bring these people on side straight away, and then build on that throughout the rest of the day. And then going on into like gallery delivery and all that sort of stuff, because I worked memory support for so long, everything we deliver is about those photos being timeless. We don't hyper edit our photos. If it's a cloudy day, you're going to have cloudy photos. If it's a sunny day, you're going to have sunny photos. I'm not, doing all of this hyper editing. I want you to be able to look at your photos in 70 years' time when you've got your grandkids on your knee and be like, yep, I actually remember what my wedding day was like. I want you to be able to go through almost like a flip book of your wedding day to kind of like tell the story of what happened. So if we're telling, because we use a lot of movement in our photos as well. So if we're able to like get some movement of you guys walking, tripping or whatever, doing a piggyback and you kind of fuck it up a little bit, or, you're getting lifted up in the air and you're kind of being thrown, we'll deliver like a series of photos so that you can kind of like watch that almost in real time, but in that 60, 70 years time when you're sitting down and maybe you've got memory loss or you've got something else or your family's just trying to interact with you in this nursing home environment, you'll be able to plug in your VR headset or whatever we're using at the time and go through photo by photo and hopefully trigger a memory in your mind. It's a real long play. It's a really long play. But I reckon my couples in that time, if I'm still alive, I don't know, I smoked for a long time, but if I'm still alive in 60 years' time, they'll thank me somewhere.
How do you go about sort of building that connection quickly? Like, I'm sure everyone has their own sort of thing. If people aren't coming on side straight away, what are you like trying to do? Because I feel like that is a real skill to be able to bring people in, and a lot of people are like, would kind of like freeze up in that moment of like, oh, these people don't want their photo taken, but I'm here to take photos. What do I do? Is there anything else that you sort of go through in that stage?
So there are some people that it doesn't really work for. Some people are really, really reserved, and that's just who they are. Like, if you're just a really reserved person and you're not going to be able to come out, and we're not going to, we put a lot of stuff online about us having so much fun at weddings and throwing people and doing all this crazy stuff. But the reality is that not every wedding day is like that. Like, we shoot 75 weddings a year. I don't post them all online because they're not all that way. Sometimes we go to a wedding and I'll get 50 reels out of one wedding because we just fucking hit and we're just having so much fun. And then I could shoot a wedding the next day and get nothing, like not a single piece of usable content, because it's just not there. And it's all about adapting to the environment that you're in. And it's where wedding photography is so good, but also so hard, in that sometimes you're just going to have to completely change the way that you work based on the environment that you're in. I have a really strong personal brand and a really strong persona and a really strong, like, this is what we do. But sometimes I turn up to a wedding day and I can't be that person. I have to be someone different, and you just have to be able to do that. I think it's far easier for me being like, when we get to work, we turn on extrovert mode and then if I need to become more introverted and more quiet, I can do that, than someone being an introverted photographer and be like, oh fuck, now I actually need to be an extrovert. I don't think that's as easy as a switch. You know, like I feel like it would be hard for you to come and shoot one of my weddings where you need to be this big extroverted person and, you know, command a crowd. Like, we do bikie weddings, and you gotta teach these bikies what to do, and that's intimidating. But I feel like I could step into your shoes and maybe become more introverted for a day. So it's far easier being on this end of the spectrum than it is the other, because you can.
It's absolutely a skill though, like being able to turn up and turn on that persona of like, well, now I'm in like work mode. Like, I need to go, and I'm not here for me, I'm here for someone else. I think that really comes down to one of the things that I always talk about is that we as photographers, especially being in wedding photography, we are like we're in like a service-based industry. Like, we're not artists, and I will screen that until, you know, at the end of the day, because like, we're not there to create art for us. We're there to create for someone else, and we have to do whatever it takes to get them, you know, on side, to make them happy, to make them feeling like they actually want to take photos, because at the end of the day, it's all about the emotion and making them remember the photos in a way that they, you know, enjoyed having them actually taken and enjoyed what was going on through the day. And I think a lot of people confuse that with being like an artist, that, no, I'm there to take photos for me. I'm there to take these exact photos. I always get these photos. I must do this, this, and this. But when something gets thrown at you on a day, when someone's not sort of vibing it, when someone doesn't like that style, you have to quickly adapt, because it's not going to work. And I think it often comes through in images, or if not afterwards, it comes through in the fact that, you know, those people aren't going to refer you if you just, you know, if you treat them like absolute garbage on a day just to get images for you. And I think that was one of the big learning things for me. It was like, look, I'm not an artist at the moment. Like, I have to step back and understand that the art isn't how I create the images. Yes, is important, but it's not the most important thing. How you make people feel will always be the most important thing.
This is the big difference between actual working wedding photographer's Instagram account and somebody that goes to styled shoots. Is because at a styled shoot, you can do whatever the fuck you want. They're models and they're paid to stand there for a really long time. Like, that model will stand in that position. You can't see how wide my arms just went, but they went really wide. And their job is to stand in that incredible pose for like 35, 40 minutes, and then a different group will come through. On a wedding day, we do all of our photos in 35, 40 minutes. Every single section of that gallery is done in 35, 40 minutes. I take all of my photos in 35, 40 minutes on site, wherever we are. My job is to find wherever you put me and make it look as pretty as possible and get all of the photos and make you a complete gallery. I wouldn't go into every single wedding being like, all right, today we're going to create some fucking magic. We are going to take the most magical, arty-farty photos you've ever seen in your entire life. But sometimes you go to a venue and you're like, holy fuck, we could take this really cool photo. Did you want to give it a try? And then that's when you get to try your creativity. And even with those, so like your off-camera flash, like, you know, it's raining outside and you get them under the umbrella and all that sort of stuff. I'm setting that photo up normally with Lewis. He's under the umbrella posing. And then we literally bring the couple out from their wedding day. We take that photo for 2 minutes, not even, and then we send them back inside. I've got my settings. I'm ready to take that photo, so that we're not taking them away from their wedding day, because as much as I like to think, and I say this every single Zoom call, I say this to every single couple, as much as I'd love to think that you're spending all of this money because you want to hang out with me, the harsh reality is that you guys are far more interested in getting married. So you should be spending most of your time with your friends and family, not with me. And that's what we do. That's why we do it. And if you ever get the opportunity, anybody listening to this that is a photographer on this non-photography podcast, if you ever get the opportunity to go back to one of your couple's houses, take that opportunity and see what photos they've printed and put on their walls. Because I can pretty much guarantee it's never the ones that you will think is the photos. Like, we do engagement shoots. I try to do as many engagement shoots with my couples as possible because it's a great practice run. And then they'll often use those photos for like the save the date, or they print them out for like a photo book or something for the wedding. And I just fucking cringe at the photos that they've printed. And I'm like, oh my God, why did they blow that picture up so big? Look at X, Y, and Z. But that's their favorite photo. They've got it hanging above their bed. They've blown it up to like 1 meter by 2 meters and they've put it in their hallway. And I fucking hate it. And this is why we deliver those photos in between photos, because just because we think one photo is really, really good from a photography perspective, probably isn't the same for the people on the other end. They'll pick something completely different, and that's the one that they're going to put on their wall. It's really humbling to go into somebody's house with your photos on the wall and be like, oh, wow, I know fucking nothing. I know absolutely nothing about photography and what people want, because whatever I deliver, they're just going to pick whatever they want anyway.
And I'm like, I think this is exaggerated with Instagram and things like that, because you post photos that you really like or that the client really liked, and not everyone online is going to agree. Don't care what other people have to say, because the images aren't for them. You're not creating for other people. You're not creating for Instagram, or at least you shouldn't be trying to. You know, if at the end of the day they do really enjoy them, that's great. But you're not trying to create for them. So don't care what they have to say. The most important thing is the client. If the client really loves the photos. I've done photo shoots before where I post photos online and people are like, this is weird, wouldn't do it that way, yada, yada, yada. I'm like, well, yeah, but you weren't there on the day. You don't know what was happening in that moment. You didn't really know the client. And you also don't know that the client actually really loved those photos. So don't stress yourself too much about thinking that just because someone had one bad thing to say online about your images does not mean that that client doesn't love those photos so much that they will go and tell like 10 of their closest friends about you.
I say it a lot because I like spend a lot of time reading hate mail. Lots of people will ask me like, oh, how do you handle getting negative comments? How do you handle getting like hate mail? Like, what do you do? Why doesn't it affect your psyche? You know? And you got to remember, there are like, 8 billion people on the planet now? And I only want to shoot 35 weddings a year. If I put a post out online and it gets 200 comments and 50 of those are negative, that's 50 people that I don't need to market to anymore. Great. Take them out. And most of these people don't live anywhere near me. They're not my ideal clients. I don't give they can say whatever they want. I'm not marketing to those people. The content that I'm putting out into the world is for a very select few people that are engaged, that live within an area that I can kind of fly to, that have money to bring me there.
I have to ask about the whole thing the other day about like calling yourself Australia's best photographer. I have to ask because I just think that's hilarious that people had something to say about that online.
I mean, I don't even know if I got people commenting about how I was Australia's best wedding photographer. I don't even know where it fucking came from because I've never said it. Like, I say it to you all of the time. I say that you have to refer to me as Australia's best wedding photographer.
Oh, I will for
but
always
like,
now.
I'm not at all. I'm fucking nowhere near the best wedding photographer. I'm not even I'm not the best wedding photographer in Adelaide. I'm not like, my daughter takes better photos on my phone than I do sometimes. I'm not here to be the best photographer because if I wouldn't be booking any weddings. Like your fucking post the other day. Like, what's more important, business or art? I'm here if you are looking for the best wedding photographer that will give you the best client experience on the wedding day, I'm your boy. Hit me up.
How does that sort of translate to your like online sort of content at the moment? Because I think there's that big thing around like you have to be the best in order to be able to educate or be able to share information. Was there that little bit of a thing for you of like, no, I don't need to understand everything to be able to help people?
Well, see, I will only educate, and I will only ever educate on things that I actually know. So I couldn't bring out an editing course because I'm fucking terrible at editing. I couldn't do a Lightroom slider thing like Antonio's doing, or like you do with curves and stuff. Like, I don't know it. I couldn't teach that. I can teach, and I do teach, business and interactions and shot lists and, making people feel comfortable. Because that's what I know. That's what I know how to do.
Well, what's the next sort of play for you in that online space? I know you're working on a lot of stuff, as we all are, all in 100 different places at once.
Going forward, I'm currently in the middle of editing up my masterclass, which is literally just a series of courses that will take you from starting your business from literally nothing. Naming your Instagram account. There's a section on naming and branding and how to use, long story short, use a personal brand over a company name. But there's a whole bit on that, on the psychology of that, into building out a portfolio, how to get portfolio images, how to stay consistent in your editing using AI, how to then start marketing for free and all that sort of stuff, all the way to shooting 100+ weddings a year, outsourcing to other people, and building a company around it. So there's a series of courses, and then helping out in our Patreon as well, where you come on and make sure that I find that a lot of people, Ben Hartley does it so superbly, but a lot of other educators, like, you buy a course or whatever, and then you're kind of left to your own devices to figure it out. I want to hold people accountable so that they're actually getting the work done. So that's where we have the Patreon, where we do fortnightly live streams, and we jump in there and make sure that you're doing the work and see if I can help in any way possible. Maybe I missed something in the course, or you've got a question about the course, you can come and ask it in the Patreon, and we'll make a video about it so you can learn from there. And then workshops and fucking who knows.
When is your masterclass out? You got any ideas yet?
Fuck knows. I think I'm going to soft launch my course 1 maybe next week. So there's 4 courses in total.
Yep.
Where beginning, intermediate, advanced, expert, essentially. And then eventually you'll be able to buy them all together as a bundle. But I think I'm going to soft launch the beginning course next week, hopefully. Maybe the week after. I'll go to live stream next week.
So hopefully out by the time this episode is out.
Yeah, something will be out. If not,
it'll be out by then.
If not, I've got a Facebook ads course out as well.
Cool. Yeah.
So you can take that if you'd want to learn how to run Facebook. We literally walk you through step by step how to run a targeted Facebook ad in your area. So do that as well.
Beautiful. For all the people out there who aren't photographers who are listening to this podcast.
So you can still do the same targeting and everything as well. So the plan is eventually, yes, I do wedding photography now and I educate on wedding photography. But eventually I would like to kind of branch out into all wedding vendors and teaching all wedding vendors how to market properly and build their brands out. And I just love weddings. Weddings are fun.
Yeah, as you said, ads can work for any different industry. And once you know how to market yourself and your services, it's amazing what you're able to do. Is there anything else that you want to leave the people with today before we finish out this episode?
If you haven't joined Patreon, make sure you do. It's very cheap. All you really do is buy me a coffee every month. But just start. Wherever you are in your creative journey, say, bringing it back in, full circle. Wherever you are in your creative journey, just start something. Even if and document the process. Nobody documents the process. Everybody is so hung up on the end goal, the end product, but your business is never finished. My website now is very good at converting people, but it's still never finished. My workflows are very, very good, but they are never finished. No matter what you're doing, wherever you are in your creative journey, wherever you are in your building out your own business, I mean, most of the people listening to this at the moment are going to be photographers, but wherever you are, like, it never stops almost. So stop trying to think about the end goal of where you're going to be rather than just kind of like enjoying the moment that you're in now. Like when we were sitting down at the pub and we were talking with like Jake and Antonio and Lewis, and they're at this start. They're at the start of their business where, like, I mean, I still get super excited every time somebody books me now, but when you're like booking your first like weddings and stuff, it's like, I miss that so much. I was in such a hurry to get out of that and become a full-time wedding photographer that I didn't appreciate the smaller wins right at the start. So just do that. Just really appreciate wherever you are in your business. And also, something I was going to mention earlier, but I completely forgot until now, has nothing to do really with what we're speaking about, but lots of people think that they need to build the biggest possible following online for their business. You don't, especially photographers. So many photographers are like, oh, fuck, I need to hit 10K. I need to hit 12K. I need to hit 15K. You don't need a following to book weddings as a wedding photographer. The more followers that you have online, the more unobtainable you are to a majority of the people that are booking you, which is why we sat at 3,000 followers for so long and we were still able to book 120 weddings a year, is because we were still obtainable to everybody. You go online, you look at somebody's Instagram account, they've got 3,000 followers, you've got enough social proof that you're like, yep, they know what they're doing, but not so many that you're like, oh shit, maybe they're out of my price range. So you don't need to be creating hundreds and hundreds of reels a day and pushing out all of this content and trying to grow your business as big as possible. Just be kind of happy with where you're at, and yeah, that's it.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for holding on today, Josh, and taking time out of your schedule, even though you're unwell today. You know, I appreciate you being here all the way from Adelaide. Yeah. Early in the morning, I know I had you up out of bed early in the office.
Yeah, but I got 2 kids. I'm always up.
Yeah, you're awake, but you're not in the office. But here we are. I dragged you in. Thank you, mate.
No worries. Thanks for having me, Michael.
Well, that is the end of today's episode. I really hope you enjoyed listening to this conversation half as much as I enjoyed having it. If you did enjoy today's episode, I would really appreciate it if you did leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or a 5-star rating on Spotify. Or if you're watching over on YouTube, give us a thumbs up and leave us a comment down below to let us know that you did enjoy this episode. Also, feel free to share this episode on Instagram and tag me at Mike Jeffrey Photography so I can reshare them on my stories. And also message me and let me know who you would love to hear on an upcoming episode of this podcast. You know, I've always tried my best to be able to have conversations with people who are in the creative space and people that I think would be a good fit on this podcast. And I would love your input as well. In a very privileged position at the moment where, you know, I'm able to reach out to people and have them on my podcast and have really interesting conversations with a whole range of people in the creative space and talk about their creative journey. So if there is anyone you would love to hear from, please let me know and I will do my best to try to get them on the podcast. At this time, I would also like to acknowledge the first creatives of the land on which I am recording today, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people of so-called Australia. As we tell stories of today, I just want to reflect on how First Nations people here and across the globe have guided and informed our understanding of the creative journey. But until next week, friends, have a lovely week and I will speak to you all again next Monday. Bye. Editing and post-production on this episode was done by Mossy Media, and music was created by JWPATON.